Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps. Christianity in Iraq dates back to the end of the 1st century with preaching of the apostle St. Thomas. In fact, Christians were a majority in Iraq long before the arrival of Islam. Today, however, best estimates suggest that Christians make up only 3% of the total population, and that approximately half of the 800,000 Christians in Iraq have since fled under threat of kidnapping and death from Islamic fundamentalists. To tell us more about the situation of Christians in Iraq, it's my great pleasure to welcome to our studio Archbishop Louis Sako, the Archbishop of Kirkuk in northern Iraq. Your Excellency, welcome to our studio and thank you for being with us here today.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be with you.
Your Excellency, can you tell us what is it like life in Iraq today?
Iraqis have a lot of worries. The daily life is very critical because you don't know. There are explosions and kidnapping, threatening. And so, if you are outside, you are not sure to go back home safe. Especially in some cities, not all over Iraq. In Baghdad, in Mosul, the situation is very tough.
What was the situation like under the regime of Saddam Hussein?
You know, Christians are an elite, and their presence was very appreciated by everyone. And all the ministers, even Saddam Hussein, was looking to have Christians in his palace. We have had everything, but no freedom. And everything was controlled by the regime. Today, we have also everything. And we have freedom. And people are nevertheless are very happy to have freedom, but the only problem is there is no security. We can travel, we can publish books, we can form new political parties, we can criticize the government, we have elections, we have a parliament, we have city councils, but the only problem is security, and I hope that security will come back.
Would you say you are better off today than under the time of Saddam Hussein?
We cannot compare, you know. During Saddam Hussein, there was no freedom. We were just like slaves. But now we are freedom, but we are afraid. So because we cannot get out, and there are a lot of explosions, fundamentalists, resistance, and the criminals. All together, they are making a lot of troubles. So people are afraid, really, especially in main cities like Baghdad, Mosul, Basra, and less in Kirkuk.
We talked about security and questions of security, and particularly for Iraqi Christians. Now, since January of 2008, we've seen 10 churches bombed in Iraq, including your cathedral in Kirkuk. What happened particularly to your cathedral?
You know, there is a difference. Before that date, the explosion or the attacks were made by terrorist groups or movements. But now, I think, personally, and I am convinced, they wanted to give us a message, a political message.
So Christians are being targeted.
Yeah, because, you know, this is a political message for us. They want to know what is the position of Christians, what they want, who they are. They want to stay with a united Iraq. They want to stand beside Kurds, Arabs, others. What is their position? They have to decide, because there were only few material damages, no deaths, and so.
So these are tests.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And what is the response of the Christian community?
Well, it is very hard. We are balancing, because if you say publicly you are with the Arabs, the others will attack you. If you say you are with the Kurds, the others will attack you. And so the situation is not easy. There is no control, no law, no institutes now. So the police men and the soldiers, the army, are not yet in a level to control the situation, security situation. So really we cannot say we are a minority. So we are balancing that. We want to be in Iraq, and as Christians we are all over the country, and we want to live in peace and in harmony with all Iraqis, whenever they are.
However, fundamentalist groups are using religion at this time to drive a wedge. I take an example. I have a letter here of a kind of letter that are being sent around to Christian families, and I'll read this now to you for your comment. Warning to infidel Christians that if you don't believe in Allah and His messenger Muhammad, son of Abdullah, Allah's prayers and peace upon him, and if you don't leave your places, all of you will be slaughtered in 3 days. Allah is successful in His plans, but most of the people don't know. Mercy for Allah, Lord of the world. Now this is a sample letter of the kinds of letters that Christians have been receiving as warnings. Is this something that you would confirm?
Yeah. Especially in Baghdad and Mosul, from fundamentalist groups. They are very dynamic there. And, they think that Islam is the completion of religion, the conclusion of religion, and the Prophet Muhammad is the end of the prophets. So the others, they are infidels until they are converted to. Not only Christians, but also other people, other Muslims who are not agreed with them. And they are pushing them, and they are a target.
The Assyrian Christian Edison Abraham is wealthy and optimistic, even though his son Edward was kidnapped.
How are you? Good? How are you?
He wants to go back to Baghdad as soon as possible.
When Edward was kidnapped, our Muslim neighbors helped us a lot. All we want is to have some peace in our country again. We shall be the first to go back. I still go back from time to my job in Baghdad. There is one thing I want to stress above all. For us, there was no difference between Muslims and Christians, and we pray to God that our country will once again be as it used to be, so that we, my family and I, can return to Baghdad. My employees are Muslims. They work for me, and they have stood by my side in this troubled time, no matter where I go. We pray to God that our country will be peaceful once again, because it is our country, and there was no difference between the religions. To be honest, we don't like Europe very much. We want to go back to our country.
War for the freedom of Iraq, symbolized by a pair of crossed weapons under an Iraqi map and the words, "In God's name," for some a sign to encourage American soldiers and the Iraqi supporters, for others a symbol of a Christian crusade or worse, interest in Iraqi oil. Mr. Hamish reports.
After the fall of the Baghdad government in 2003, I worked for 5 months for an American company, and so did my wife's uncle. They kidnapped his son. We could only get him free by paying a ransom. They tried to kidnap my son in a public street, but he managed to get away from them. After that, we fled here. That was 3 years ago. Our applications for visas for Australia were turned down 3 times. Now I want to return to my family's village in Iraqi Kurdistan. I want to work. My wish is this: not to live in foreign countries, but in our home, if that is possible.
The majority of Iraqi Christians who are not Arab and go back to the pre-Islamic peoples of the Assyrians or the Chaldeans and speak Aramaic are from Kurdistan. Bakhyat Evas David has returned to Dohuk.
Until 10 months ago, we were in Baghdad. My son was kidnapped. We negotiated, and he was released after 10 days. We paid them more than $35,000. Then came the threats. We should leave the city. We stayed at home for the night, and in the early morning we fled with only the clothes on our bodies. When we arrived in Dohuk, I started working as a pastry cook, as I had done in Baghdad. We took over a business and equipped it with the money we still had. We bought fridges, some glass cabinets, and simple equipment. Here we can earn money by working. I have 3 brothers with me, 3 of their children, and my 4 children. We all work in our pastry shop. We have an income and, thank God, up to now it has been good.
Bakhyat Evas David has succeeded. Not everybody does. Rents and the cost of living in the Iraqi Kurdistan towns have increased by an unbelievable amount because of the number of refugees. There is high unemployment. The financial support from the government is not enough. What does it look like in the country? Has life returned to the villages? We are driving over the mountains today. En route, we stop off in the Kurdish village of Bapira. In 1992, the Kurds rebuilt their villages in the traditional style. Saddam's Iraq did not offer them any alternative, and only a few managed to emigrate. But the agriculture does not provide enough to feed their children. Many family fathers earn their money as Peshmerga fighters in the Kurdish army. Day is on the southern edge of the mountains, not very far from Dohuk. This is what Yalda Hoshaba has to say.
In 1992, we started to rebuild our village with other family members. We started working in our fields and gardens again, so that life could restart here again. Of course, the income from selling our agricultural produce was not nearly enough to live on. That's why we're all looking for additional sources of income. I work as a teacher in various schools in the area. My cousin Samir is a taxi driver. He came back to our village from Baghdad with his father, his brother's family, and his own family about 3 weeks ago. I moved to Baghdad in 1961 and worked there as a taxi driver, as did my son, Samir. When my brother Suhair was kidnapped, I negotiated with the kidnappers for 9 days. They released Suhair only on condition that we convert to Islam, which we did not want to do. Surviving in Baghdad was getting more and more difficult anyway. So we returned to our family's village. I work as a taxi driver and in our fields.
As in many mountain villages, in Bebossi one is dependent on a diesel generator. Refugees from Baghdad live in the stone houses built in the 90s. In 1992, villagers dug under the rubble and found the Holy Scriptures of the destroyed church as well as a rosary. In the last year and a half, a new church and new houses were built. Older people, pensioners, have moved here, while the younger people stay in the city. But it is still good to spend the holidays here together. The plain south of Alkosh belongs to Mosul, but now it is protected by the Peshmerga, as the inhabitants are mainly Christians and Kurds of the Yazidi faith. It is a fertile land. Alkosh is a very old, small Christian town. Never destroyed, life goes on as it has since early times. There will only be more jobs here when agricultural production has been modernized. The Makdiz family from Baghdad can only survive because the father receives an income from being a Peshmerga. Erbil is the regional capital of Iraqi Kurdistan. It too has a long history. In front of the parliament building, we meet the Kurdish parliamentarian Bakir Fatah.
United Nations, they sell the products from the outside of the country instead of the sell the product from our farmers and to rehabilitize and reactivate our life in the villages. They didn't help them to react to such kind of the peoples to work in their farmers. Just only they come back to build some holiday house in the village. It's not the solutions for our problem. So we need now the technology. We need the help from the outside to come to here and to help our people, our farmers, to go to their villages.
A law was passed in July 2007 banning the import of perishable foods, a first step towards supporting local agriculture. But what is important for living in safety is putting all religions on an equal footing with Islam and anchoring it in the regional constitution. If that were to happen, many Christian refugees who do not have a hope of getting asylum in a Western country could return to their former homes in Iraqi Kurdistan.
To tell us more about the situation of Christians in Iraq, it's my great pleasure to welcome to our studio Archbishop Louis Sako, the Archbishop of Kirkuk in northern Iraq. Your Excellency, is this message coming through? Because it seems to me that actually what's happening is Christians are taking fear and leaving Iraq.
This is very bad because we are already a minority. If our people leave Iraq, then our princes we will have no sense. And you know, we are the roots of Christianity with our liturgy, our spirituality, our church fathers, our church structure and tradition.
You are a cradle of Christianity.
Of course. Then if there is no more Christian in Iraq and Middle East Oriental churches, the West Christians will lose a lot. So I think the churches and also the governments all over the world and the West should help Christians to stay and to protect them. There are many ways, to protect minorities today. To ask, for instance, to respect the human rights and to look for an agreement also between majority and minorities. I think the only standard should be the citizenship, because to look to be Christian or to be Muslim or to be Yazidi,
you should be Iraqi.
Iraqi. That's the only the only standard can unite every Iraqi. I am Iraqi. I am an Iraqi Christian, otherwise an Iraqi Muslim. It doesn't matter. So religion should be not a fact of division between people. It is something personal in my conscience, in my heart, maybe in my family, but I cannot impose my religion upon all Iraqis or upon everybody.
Within the Constitution, there is an article declaring freedom of religion, and yet it is well known that conversion is still considered to be punishable by death within Islam. My question to you is there really a religious freedom within Iraq, within the new constitution?
Yeah, there is 2 articles in the constitution. Islam is the source of legislation. We can, as Christians and others, we can accept that we can live with Islamic culture, but not in Islamic law. This is something different.
The Sharia.
Sharia, because that will be an Islamic law in the details. Every single detail should be considered in Islamic law, and this is very difficult, very hard for us. And there is also another article. We should not make laws against democracy. So democracy and Islamic Sharia, there is a contradiction, contrary. I think as Christians, with other secular political parties, church and Christian political parties too, we can work for modification, and it is possible.
What is the unique role that Christians can play in Iraq? What is the gift of Christianity to Iraq as a culture, as a country?
During the history, when Muslims came to Iraq, we were very well organized with monasteries, hospitals, schools. We gave a lot to Muslims. They were coming from the desert. And during the Abbasid Caliphate, the intellectuals were all Christians. The House of Wisdom, Beit al-Hikmah, the translators of the Greek philosophy and sciences were all Christians. So now I think we can play a role of reconciliation, a good conviviality, living together, to forgive, not to take revenge. And we are there to witness something different than the others.
You, despite all the evident problems, the challenges, you're still hopeful and optimistic for Iraq and for the Catholics there, the Christians there.
Oh, yeah. Because, Iraq is a rich country. We have not only oil, we have water, we have agriculture, we have tourism, and God gave us a lot. And also, Iraqis are not fanatic by nature, and many fighters came from abroad, and I think now the borders are controlled, and they cannot stay forever. They are now a minority. Majority of Iraqis are for Iraqis, and they are welcoming each other. I think the situation will change, and the future will be better than now. And you know, the devil has no future. The good is slow, but it remains.
Your Excellency, thank you for having been with us today. I know you travel back this evening to Iraq, and I wish you Godspeed on your travels and your work in Iraq, in Mosul.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for having been with us today in our program. And if you'd like to know more about the situation of Catholics in Iraq, or perhaps how you might be able to help, I would ask you to look at the contact information at the end of this program. And we look forward to seeing you next time on Where God Weeps.